Welcome to the 37th annual meeting of the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation. This meeting is called to order, and our Secretary Gail Hodges will now take the podium.
I'd like to report that we have received proxies from most of those who were eligible to vote, and we do have a quorum based on the proxies. And in addition, we have people in our audience who may not have given a proxy. So at this point, we are legally entitled to begin the meeting, and Suzanne has called it to order. We also have distributed the minutes of the 2012 annual meeting, and I would ask for a motion and approval of those meetings. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the minutes as distributed.
Okay. Was Pauline Moore, and the second was from Alice Moulton-Neely, I believe. No, someone over here. Second, thank you. Great, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. And now we have our officers' reports, and Suzanne.
Well, as your outgoing president with a smile on her face, I thought I should highlight, I can't tell, can you hear me in the back, Steve? I thought I should highlight some of the successes and high points of the last 2 years of the foundation and acknowledge that these projects that were brought to completion were started well before my presidency and have involved years of tremendous effort by the foundation. So I wanted to mention that early on. First and foremost is our East Lake Forest train station. And in 2013, the city was awarded a second ITEP grant and for the completion of the train station, and that will result in $1.2 million. Now this follows a grant that we received in 2009 for $850,000 from ITEP, where the city contributed $160,000 and Metra $250,000 to bring the train station to its current level of completion. These ITEP grants were only possible due to the leadership and contribution that this foundation gave with a gift of $50,000 in a historic structure report completed by Gunny Harbaugh, noted architect who many of you know. And it was a long collaboration with the city, and I would like Gail Hodges to stand because she's the one who is our liaison and our grant writer for both. Gail. The city considers her a valuable asset, as do we. Yeah. In another private and city foundation partnership, we provided the leadership and contribution for the completion of the Deer Path Hill Estates on Deer Path Road. This is a major entry into the city and just a wonderful focal point for us. Additionally, we contributed to Ragdale with one of our wine strolls with the proceeds from that, and in addition supplemented it with funds from our foundation. Earlier this year, West Park was declared as a listed National Registered District by the National Park Service. And our application involved hundreds of hours over the course of several years with people like Shirley Paddock, Arthur Miller, Paul Bergman, Marcy Kerr, and Carolyn Kerr working on this project. And so there are 134 structures in the West Park District, and it's just a very nice recognition for the city and for the district. We've worked very hard to be inclusive as an organization and to appeal to the future generations of preservationists. And you've seen that through some of our facelifts on our preservation publication and our wine strolls and our many educational pieces, as well as a written walking tour for Market Square this year. And the board has just volunteered tremendously as with their intellectual property and their energy to many of the projects in the city to help shape those positively over the year in many of the projects and structures. And I think in leaving that our relationship with the city is very strong, our finances are good, and you have a talented and gifted president and board coming on. And I think they'll carry forward the vision for the coming years. And I just thank you for your level of support at all levels. And I'll turn this podium over to Dennis as our treasurer.
Thank you. I'm Dennis Johnston. I am the treasurer once again this year. And I wanted to report that, as Suzanne said, we are in very good financial condition. Would everyone, and I know everyone's excited about this part, but would you turn to the last page of your handout? We have assets of approximately $145,000. We, in this past year, ran a deficit of about $5,000. But when we look down the list, I want to say I'm half Scottish, so I try to be very, very cheap. But we've tried to cover many of the different issues, and we're also making some changes. We've made changes, which Len will talk about right after this, that have made this a little more confusing this year. We've had one-time expenses to the items that Suzanne mentioned, like the Ragdale donation and the Deer Path Estates, all of which were things that we felt were very, very necessary. Our total expenses, as far as our operating expenses, we kept them in line with the direction of Marcy Care. We only had an increase of about 6%. But the very bottom line, and I'm finished, is a little confusing, showing us at a small deficit compared to quite an income gain last year. But that was primarily because we had in the prior year, we had a $50,000 donation plus some estate benefits beyond that. And it was a wonderful gift, and it added to our long-term holdings. So if anyone has any questions now, say so, or see me afterwards. Thank you. Now we have Len to is charge of the new developmental committee.
There you go. Thank you, Dennis. And I'd also like to take this time to thank Suzanne for her wonderful leadership of this organization. Interestingly enough, Suzanne and I joined this board 6 years ago, and it certainly has been a pleasure for me to serve alongside her and serve with her these past 2 years in particular when she was the president. As you may recall, or I'll remind you, we changed the bylaws and created a new board position called the Vice President of Development. I've had the honor and privilege to serve as this organization's first developmental vice president. The position and development focus were created to ensure the financial viability and sustainability of the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation. So you may ask, what is development all about, besides us, of course, asking you for money? Well, development really is a holistic activity. Development is a process by which an organization defines itself, communicates its mission, and engages its constituency to support its mission. Development tells the organization's story, builds an accurate perception and an endorsement of the mission of the organization. Development is the result of many activities, including relationship building, marketing, brand development, cheerleading, cultivating community awareness, and forging partnerships. Development is more than just fundraising. Development is about making friends, long-term friends. So you say, well, that's great, Len. What did you do this past year? And I'm fortunate to say we were able to do a few things, and I want to talk about those right now, about these initiatives. We had a fundraiser last September called Classic Estates and Gardens, a home tour along beautiful Lake Road that raised over $12,000. We had the first ever annual fund for the organization, which raised over $20,000 in the fourth quarter last year. We had a holiday party to thank you all for your participation in our organization, and that was held in a beautiful classic Mayflower Road estate, walking distance from my home, although I don't live in a classic Mayflower estate by any means. We have an ongoing membership campaign, and as you know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, we changed the way we run our membership. We changed from a calendar year to our fiscal year. So that being the case, you probably just heard from us in the past month or so about your membership. And I hope that you have joined, and if you haven't joined, you will renew, and if you are renewing, I hope you think about upgrading it. So please keep that in mind, and I thank all of you that have already joined or renewed. And additionally, all these initiatives were supported by a new, more colorful, bolder, and inclusive visual messaging, which emphasized, to broaden our appeal, we refreshed, reformatted, and renamed our publication, Preservation. Hopefully you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, talk to the mail service. And we've also, you can anticipate in the future an ongoing refinement and updating of our communication, our website, and our branding. So to be sure, development plays a vital role in our organization's success. We all should be proud of the development work that has been accomplished at this juncture. To conclude, I want to thank the many people who have supported the development effort for the past year and helped to make it a great success. And this being my last official act as a board member after serving for the past 6 years, I wish for even more success for the organization and fulfillment of its message or mission into the future. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jan Gibson, our Programs Vice President.
Thank you, Lynn. We preserve Lake Forest historic visual characters through many ways. One of those avenues is through our educational programs. Our program committee this year tries to make them informational, thought-provoking, affordable, and fun to attend. For example, many of you have signed up today to attend a private tour and reception at this year's Infant Welfare Society's show house. It's a David Adler house that few people have seen in the last 30 years. In addition, we will get to hear Art Miller discuss the history and architecture, while Craig Bergman discusses historic gardens. This is the type of program we like to bring to you. In the future, we encourage your suggestions for programs so that all of you will understand more about Lake Forest's rich history and preservation issues. And we also need volunteers to sit on various committees and share ideas, so please don't hesitate. This past year, I couldn't have done this without the entire board's help and leadership, and the committee included, and I want to thank them, Elizabeth Sperry, Alice Moulton-Ely, Carol Champ, Paul Bergman, Rami Lopat, Pauline Moore, Bill Redfield, Pat Reese, and Kristen Chun. Thank you very much for helping and leading. To recap the programs that we've had this last year, we've had several popular wine strolls this year while we celebrate local architecture, listen to experts, and enjoy a conviviality of our group. These included celebrating Ragdale's renovation and restoration, as well as Jack and Peggy Crow's replica of the 1793 Samuel McIntyre Summer House Folly. We enjoyed our 4th annual Market Square Family Fair, coordinating with the Chamber, retail and service businesses, to have architectural trolley and walking and biking tours, tunnel tours, and loads of fun for the families. September brought you the incredible tour that Lynn referenced, and we thank Suzanne, the board, and the volunteers for making this a successful architectural house tour. And of course, our annual holiday celebration that we have each year, given at a historic home. Each year, I like to include a technical program, whether it's about historic mortar or about facade easements. This year, we honored our Lake Forest Library's windows restoration when we heard and saw a demonstration of how all the original windows were recently restored, not replaced. These restored windows will last another 100 years. And finally, in February, we ended with a discussion of preservation on the state and national front. We had a fireside chat with our very own Bonnie McDonald, president of Landmarks Illinois, and heard about the state of the state with regard to our preservation efforts. It was a treat to meet this new president as she talked about preservation issues. And now the future. Stay tuned for more wine strolls this summer. The first is around the summer solstice, and one of the oldest houses in Lake Forest. This fall, we honor another prominent architect, Edwin Hill Clark, who designed at least 7 homes in Lake Forest, as well as our library. And watch out for more windows programs, this time about stained glass and its history, construction, and restoration. Thank you for allowing us to present these programs for you. The committee and I look forward to serving you for another year. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Before I present the report of the nominating committee, I would like to recognize and thank those who served on the committee. It was a fine committee. People worked so well together and everyone contributed, so it was just plus all the way around. And the members of the committee were Guy Berg, Judy Bogus, Maureen Grinnell, Dennis Johnson, Arthur Miller, and Carol Champ. The nominating committee met in accordance with the bylaws and respectfully proposes the following slate for your consideration. For officers: President, Gail Hodges; Vice President Development, Maureen Grinnell; Vice President Program, Jan Gibson; Secretary, Kristen Chun; Treasurer, Dennis Johnson. May I have a motion to approve the slate of officers as presented? Well, we had a lot. I see Sarah Wimmer for the secretary. Second, please. Will you give me your name, please?
Mary Niebler.
Mary Niebler for the secretary. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting the slate as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Slate is elected. Will the new officers stand and be recognized if you're here? The following persons have been proposed as directors for the class of 2016. Stephen Bent, Kristen Chun, Peter Coutant, Ellison Durr, Linda Liang, Fred Moyer, Elizabeth Sperry, Laura Tarancik. A director for the class of 2015 to fulfill an unexpired term is Stephen Douglas. May I have a motion to approve the proposed directors? So moved. Roger Moore made the motion. Do I have a second? Jim Hodges seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, well, both slates were accepted unanimously. And will the new directors please stand and be recognized? Thank you very much. I will now turn the podium over to our newly elected president, Gail Hodges. Gail?
A gift of our appreciation. So much has happened during Suzanne's tenure, and we are most grateful for it. Thank you so much. I also would like to recognize 3 of our directors who will be leaving the board. And I believe, is Marcy, that we have some, a basket for each of them over here. If Bill Redfield, Len Dano, and Joy Morawski, if they were all here, would come forward. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd just like to make a few comments, and some of these are retrospective. I have to say that after serving as the president of this organization from 1980 to 1982, I did not expect to be ever up here again. However, I am very pleased and proud of this organization, and that is why I'm willing to give more time to it. Some of you know I have just returned from the Charleston area, and I have to say that is a wonderful example, perhaps one of the prime examples in our nation, of a community that has valued its architectural and historic treasures and that is thriving today in every way, particularly in a business context, particularly in a historic context, and particularly in the enjoyment of its residents. It's something I think always to keep in mind here in Lake Forest, where we have a very fragile environment. We have the resources to keep it the way it is and to make it even better. But in times like those that we're going through right now, there often is a sense of expediency. Well, we have to give a variation here or something, make a change there, or perhaps this ordinance is too strict. But we need to keep in mind that hanging in there with it all is very, very important. When I took the presidency in 1980, we had all these beautiful resources here and we had nothing to protect them. And I have to say that this community was almost as hostile as it is in Winnetka right now about historic preservation. We had no ordinances. We were going to have an ordinance that was basically a subdivision ordinance to protect the division of historic properties. And there was a huge community protest about it. People actually took out ads in the newspaper against this because they thought their property values would decrease. That, of course, has not proven true. Today we have, through very hard work on the part of a lot of people in this organization, and with the cooperation and encouragement in recent times of the city of Lake Forest, we now have ordinances that protect our historic properties. We have a historic preservation commission. We have a city historic district. We have landmarking available. All of those are tools that help us to preserve this beautiful place that we live in. But there is a constant vigilance that's necessary. And we count on all of you, our members, to help with this. Volunteers are very essential to our organization. Together we can do what no one person could do alone. And so I hope you'll keep that in mind and step forward if you have special talents that can help us. We have, I think, we've just had an extraordinary board under Suzanne's leadership that has made great strides forward. We're going to have another exceptional board this year, people I really look forward to working with, who have good roots in the community, who have the community at heart, and lots of talents. So I look forward to working not only with them, but with all of you. And I thank you for the honor of being here at least for the next year, leading this organization. I would like to, if there aren't any questions at this point in time, to officially adjourn the business meeting of the foundation, and may I have a motion for that purpose? Dennis Johnson has moved. A second? Second, Landano. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Then I'd like to introduce Steve Douglas, who will handle the awards, preservation awards for 2013.
Welcome to the 2013 Historic Preservation Awards presentation. Our awards are based on the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. There are standards for 4 distinct but interrelated approaches to the treatment of historic properties. And those are rehabilitation, restoration, reconstruction, and preservation. We also sometimes give awards to new infill projects in historic neighborhoods if the design is compatible with surrounding historic properties. Our first award category today is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation acknowledges the need to alter or add to an historic property to meet continuing or changing uses while retaining the property's historic character. Repair, alterations, and additions are made while preserving those portions or features of the property which convey its historical, cultural, or architectural values. 530 Crabtree Lane was designed by Boyd Hill in 1934. An original porch was enlarged in 1949, and a large sunroom was constructed over the porch in 1979. The large-scale postmodern ornamentation and extensive glazing of the sunroom detracted from the Georgian Revival character of the original house and the formal courtyard to the rear. Owners Sarah and James Tenbrook worked with Northworks to expand the home while restoring its original character. The new 2013 addition replaces the unsympathetic additions with a new 2-story wing, mirroring the original east wing in materials and fenestration, and reestablishes the axial formality of the main house and gardens. 430 Washington Road had major structural and functional issues when purchased by Kimberly and Jim Karras. Designed by J.H. Root in 1925, the house was one of 6 homes built for summer rental and facing the main farmhouse at the center of a 5-acre parcel. The front door actually faced north on the opposite side of the house and 1 level up from the driveway. With architect Harold R. Lutz and Associates, the Karrases added a covered porch across the main facade to help break up the scale of the original 3-story elevation, and added a new entry hall and stair between the original house and an addition. Here you can see the second story of the addition and the original front door to the house, facing north into the yard, right there. At 806 South Green Bay Road, Edward Humrick created a one-bedroom home in 1950. Humrick once said, "I think a house, or any building, should go with the land, not violate the land. A house should be like an outcropping of the land, a rock formation, to belong to the site. I think you can see how this house accomplishes that." His trademark details included post and beam construction, passive solar siding, radiant heat in stained concrete floors, horizontal siding, board and batten cedar ceilings or walls, multiple fireplaces, exquisite craftsmanship, and large operable glass doors to let the outdoors in. Ada and Gordon Boras needed more space and worked with architect Summit Design to renovate and add to the home in the Humrick vernacular. 349 Kingmuir Road was designed by Stanley Anderson in 1927. Several later additions appeared disconnected from the original architecture, including this glass and metal structure at the rear. Owners Molly and Brian Sarver worked with Mellicar Architects to remove incompatible elements, add new windows and dormers, and rework the interior plan and the additions, creating a unified architectural language. The historical integrity and character of the original structure has been maintained while providing a more elegant and functional floor plan than had resulted from prior additions. Will these 4 award recipients and their architects please step forward to receive the Rehabilitation Award? If any of them are here.
Glad to see it. Thank you very much.
1435 Lake Road was designed by an associate of David Adler's, Ambrose Kramer Jr., to be the coach house to Adler's Richard Bentley estate, and both were designed in Adler's Dutch South African style. Renovated into a home in 1950 by Stanley Anderson, the structure has again been rehabilitated by owners Sissy and Willard Bunn with Rugo Raff Architects. An unsympathetic addition was removed and replaced, and the plan was remade to be more functional for the owners. Original details were painstakingly copied so that the new now blends seamlessly with the original. 797 North Sheridan Road is really 2 separate buildings combined into one. And my guess is that the collision occurred right about here. The Barnum House was built for Samuel Ezra Barnum in 1867, possibly designed by Asher Carter of Carter and Drake. The Wright store was built in 1859 and stood at the northeast corner of Deer Path and Western, and was quickly made a lame duck as early as 1860 when D.R. Holt said that he would not build his house if there were any retail stores on the east side of the tracks. The retail store then moved to the west side of Western, and Barnum reportedly moved the building and combined it with his home in 1867. Owners Amy and Luke Lincoln worked with Door 13 Architecture to restore various interior and exterior elements of both structures, including reconstructing the front porch to its original open design. 211 Maple Court was designed by Shepley, Rutan, and Coolidge as the coach house to the Rumsey estate across the ravine on Illinois Road. In 1973, an incompatible 2-story addition was constructed. Owners Ann and Steve Skinner worked with Rugo Raff Architects to demolish the addition and replace it with a new 2-story addition compatible in design and materials to the original structure. Here you can see the exquisite attention to detail that unites the new work with the original design. 215 North Sheridan Road was designed by Jerome Cerny in 1927 for Carter H. Harrison V, who had served multiple terms as mayor of Chicago. Owners Jane and Mark Nauer worked with Ruggles Architecture to completely renovate the home, add a new 3-car garage, and a wonderful garden terrace and wall at the rear. Will these 4 award recipients please step forward to receive the Rehabilitation Award? Hi, Jane.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Our next award category is preservation. Preservation focuses on the maintenance and repair of existing historic materials and retention of a property's form as it has evolved over time. This is the act or process of applying measures necessary to sustain the existing form, integrity, and materials of an historic property. 461 North Green Bay Road was designed by David Adler in 1913 for Mr. and Mrs. William E. Clow, Jr. The house is virtually unchanged and is in excellent condition thanks in large part to the preservation efforts of owners Barbara and Raymond Buck. This is a great example of preservation at its finest. It is all original, right down to the green wood shutters, the wood windows, and the yellow stucco. Even the hedges are still laid out in their original pattern. The house is very urban in its design in response to the fairly constrained site in comparison to many of Adler's other well-known homes. And as we pass through this door from near the garage to the rear, one could easily imagine that we're in an urban setting somewhere in Europe. Do we have a representative? I think the Bucks are out of town, but is there a representative of the Bucks to accept their preservation award?
I think Kristen's over at the info box.
Okay. Our next and final award category is restoration. Restoration is undertaken to accurately depict the form, features, and character of a property as it appeared at a particular period of time in its history by means of the removal of features from other periods in its history and the reconstruction of missing features from the restoration period. 776 and 778 North Green Bay Road are Howard Van Dorenshaw's gatehouses to his Walter Brewster estate of 1910. The gatehouses are here and the estate is here. The main house was built on the site of the original 1837 Cole cabin, owned by parents of Mary Swanton Atteridge, who succeeded to the farm after them. Walter Brewster's wife, Kate Brewster, was founder of, among other things, the Lake Forest Garden Club's predecessor, the Garden Club of Illinois, in 1912, the Garden Club of America in 1913, the Bulletin of the Garden Club of America, which she edited and funded, and founder and promoter of the Lake Forest Garden Club's Foundation for Architecture and Landscape Architecture from 1926 to 1935. The Brewsters were also huge supporters of the Art Institute of Chicago. The house was actually sited by the Olmsted organization, and it was sited to the west of the existing pond, here. And the gatehouses were sited to the east of the pond on Green Bay Road. The entry drive proceeded west and actually divided, circling the pond in both directions, down here as well. Bear in mind that Westminster did not continue to the west of Green Bay Road at that time. And in fact, this estate extended all the way into open lands. Approaching from Green Bay Road, you can see the garage to the right and the gardener's cottage to the left. And you're drawn by the strong main axis through the formal entry sequence between the two structures to the main estate, which you can barely see in the distance. In 1953, the gatehouses were subdivided into two separate properties. In the 60s, the garage was altered, with 2 of the 4 garage door openings being bricked up and the structure converted into a residence. Significant changes were also made to the gardener's cottage, including a 2-story garage addition to the south, a new entry vestibule protruding into the motor court, destroying its original symmetry, and sadly, the removal of all the original windows and replacement with large, undivided expanses of thermopane glass. Current owners, Missy and John Dursey, working with architect Virgil McDowell, have reunited the two properties and restored much of Shaw's original design, while also modifying later additions to make them more sympathetic to the original architecture. For example, they removed the garage from the gardener's cottage, converting it back to living space and integrating this 60s addition with the original structure. They removed and replaced all the brick from the 2-story addition to the cottage in order that the brick would match the original brick in both size and texture. And they added the limestone course to match Shaw's design. Here. The masons also rebuilt all the chimneys which had fallen into disrepair. The Durseys removed all the modern thermopane picture windows and restored window openings to their original proportions with new custom single glazed true divided light wood windows and wood storm windows. They removed the entry vestibule that had been added to the motor court and restored the gardener's cottage facade. The roofs were also all restored with recycled slate shingles, and the asphalt in the motor court was removed and replaced with gravel pavement as Shaw would have used. They restored the only remaining original Shaw door and used it as the main door to the home. Using Shaw's original architectural drawings as a guide, they removed the brick infill at the 2 garage doors, which had been filled in, restored the openings to their original configuration, and had custom-made garage doors installed at all 4 openings following Shaw's design. Look at Shaw's detail for the diagonal boards and for the strong sill expression under the window. And now let's see what the result was. This attention to detail continues throughout many aspects of the home, and I haven't even begun to describe them all. But at this point, I would like to invite the Durseys to step forward to receive the Restoration Award. Now many of us are going to proceed to the reception and tour of the house and gardens at David Adler's 1916 Pike Estate on Lake Road, both of which have been completely transformed by the Infant Welfare Society of Chicago's 2013 show house. Thank you for attending our annual meeting and awards ceremony, and thank you for supporting the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation.